I'm Anil Kumar, and here we have a two-part question. The first part is state the equation of the given function, right? So a function is drawn here. You can pause the video, look at the graph, and then write down the equation of the function which is represented on this graph. So that is the first part for you. And the second part for you is sketch inverse of this function, right? So that is the second part for you. Now let us see what is the equation of this particular function. To find the equation, we recognize that this seems to be a base function square root. So we say f of x for us is a square root function. So that is a base function and which has been transformed. So how is it transformed? As we can note that it has been moved 1 unit to the right and 1 unit down. So the transformation here is 1 right, 1 down. That is one part, and it also looks like stretched a bit. How do we find the stretch? If I move 1 unit to the right, I am actually looking at a value difference of 2. That means normally square root x, if I move 1 unit to the right, then it is only 1. Now here the stretch factor is of 2, right? So we say that there is a vertical stretch by factor of 2. Now that helps us to give the equation in the first place. So let us write down now the equation of the function. Let us say the function is g of x. Now it is vertically stretched by a factor of 2, and also we notice that it has been reflected. So let me add that, and then vertically stretched by a factor of 2 and reflected on x-axis, correct? So that is how it is. Since it is a reflection, we'll write this as minus and vertical stretches of 2 square root of, horizontally we are moving 1 unit to the right, that means x minus 1, vertically 1 unit down, that means minus 1. So that becomes the function for us. Now just to check if it is really right or not, let's look for some other point on the function. So it seems that let's look for some point. It seems this is a good point to check, for example. Now this point is at x equals to 10, we have a value of minus 7. So this point is 10 minus 7. So if I substitute 10, what do I get? Let us check. So what is g of 10 for us? Minus 2 within square root. We have 10 minus 1 minus 1. And that gives us minus 2 within square root 9 minus 1. And this is equals to within square root. We have now 3 minus 1. So minus 6 and minus 1 is indeed minus 7. So it works for us. So this equation indeed is just the right equation for the particular graph. So the steps involved to find the equation are, first you find the parent function, right? And then we go backwards. You find translations. And then you find stretch. And then you find reflections. So if you move backward, you kind of get your function, correct? Now second part of this equation is from the graph sketch the inverse of the function. To sketch the inverse, we have to reflect the graph on the line y equals to x, and that is a part which I have left for you. So it will be kind of a one arm of a parabola where these points will be flipped, right? So once you flip them, you will get your function. So I'll leave that part for you. So you need to sketch the inverse of this function. So what you can do is you can find the coordinate points which are critical. So this coordinate point is, for example, for us 1 and minus 1, right? 1 and minus 1. It will be reflected on this, so it will come here. I don't have room for that also anyway. And then we have a critical point here which is 2 and minus 3. You can also consider this point 10 and minus 7. Joining them, so when you, for the inverse, let me write down. So G inverse of x will have these points at least. So there are many, but then we are considering these points. So when I flip 1 and minus 1, I get minus 1, 1. And when I flip this, I get minus 3, 2. And when I flip this, I get minus 7, 10. So joining these points with kind of a parabola. So the sketch will be kind of a parabola, right? I mean, in this case, it will not be going upwards. As the points will follow, it will rather go kind of like this, right? So that is how you have to sketch this particular function. Do it on your own. Thank you and all the best.